Live from the studios, it's JFP Sports, where fantasy and sports talk lives. Today, I'm with my great partner here, Ricky P. Welcome back.
Thank you.
How's it going, pal?
It's going well. A lot of things to catch up on. NBA Finals soon on the horizon. We got a few different matchups to talk about before we get to that. Baseball's heating up here in the late stages of May, and let's get ready to roll.
Yeah, was waiting for you to ask me how I am doing. And you know how I'm doing? I'm doing miserable. You know why? Because we have a catcher of the New York Yankees that can't catch. He has so many balls get by him. I'm afraid for a curveball pitcher or somebody with a put-away slider.
You're talking about Austin Romine.
No, I'm talking about Gary Sanchez, the Sanchino. He is horrific behind the plate. How could I trust that in a playoff? How could I trust that, especially in a one-game playoff, as a wild card?
You know what? One of the things about Gary Sanchez that is mind-boggling to Yankee fans is he can hit so well, he can't field to save a lick. That's the perception. What I'm going to try to do here is change your mind, change the minds of Yankee fans, and try to prove out a few different points as to why I don't think he's actually that bad. One of the things that Gary Sanchez, we know he can do is he can throw guys out. He's got a cannon of an arm. Last year, going through some of the numbers, he had a true caught stealing percentage. So where that's the catchers recording the caught stealing, not just the pitchers and the pickoffs. He had 38% 2016 as a rookie. Mm-hmm. Naturally, you expect him to do better his sophomore season, where some guys have a sophomore slump. He went 51%. That's a 13% difference rate right there. So he's caught just over one half of the guys that he tried to throw out between second and third base.
I'm sitting on the couch Tuesday night, and Yankees are losing, obviously. And then they bring in Dellin Betances, and the ball's going all over the place. I feel like it is such a liability. Me as a Yankee fan, you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking Austin Romine needs to get in that lineup 3 days a week. You have Sanchez with Luis Severino, and you have him with CeCe. Oddly enough, CeCe pitches well to Gary Sanchez. He did horribly last night, Wednesday night. But going back to Tuesday, I feel like this is such a liability. Why not make this guy a DH? Is it because he's too young? What is it?
It's not that. One of the things that Gary Sanchez can do, we just talked about throwing guys out, but it's not just CeCe that pitches well to him. We've talked about off air how Sonny Gray does really, really well with Austin Romine, and that's kind of his guy. Tim Wakefield had Kevin Cash, and some of these guys, like especially the knuckleball, Doug Mirabelli, right? Guy, and that makes sense, and that would, in most people's opinions, give Romine that 1, 2, maybe 2 guys a week, depending on how many times Gray went. But the ERA in 2017 with Sanchez behind the plate was a mere 3.43.
Okay.
And this year it's a 3.72. So a lot of people talk about the Yankee Bombers, and it's fun, and that's the way baseball's going. The average is 4.15 for team ERA. So Gary Sanchez is still 0.3, 0.4 below that. In 2017, when the team wasn't supposed to do as well as they are right now, and didn't have the expectations with the young guys of Judge and Sanchez and Didi, and didn't have Stanton in that lineup, they were 3.43. So the Yankee pitching is partially keeping them in the spot that they're in right now.
But I feel like, you see what I mean? The Yankee team I love it, and a lot of Yankee fans will say it's a great mix. You have a great mix of veterans, you have a great mix of youth. But I feel the pitchers that are coming in, you have your Canely, your Chapman, your David Robertson, those guys are veteran pitchers. So is Gary Sanchez calling the games, or is Chapman, when he's coming in, calling in the pitches? That's why I feel like he struggles so much with the young guys, Domingo Germán, Jordan Montgomery, because those guys need a Joe Girardi behind the plate and Austin Romine to call the plays, to call the right pitches, selection.
Yeah, and that's definitely a concern. And a guy like Aroldis Chapman didn't come up through the Yankee farm system.
Of course not.
But guys like Domingo Germán, they've worked with Sanchez before. When these guys are down in spring training, this is what they're doing. This is not, we're just throwing a guy like Germán and Sonny Gray and things like that. Sure, you need to get Romine starts. He's a backup catcher. He's got to get in there.
He's got to play more.
Right. So let me ask you this: where is Gary Sanchez DHing? A, and B, who are you taking out? Because someone's got to sit. Well, is it an outfielder? Is it Tyler Austin? So does Sanchez go to first? There are a lot of different options.
Of course, and we spoke about these options, but I feel like the best option for him, because is a liability in the field. I feel like he is a slugger. He is a slugger. He's very big-bodied. I believe right now his position is DH, other than when Severino and CC is pitching. Now, I say that because you're to your question, who would I have to take out? Okay? And against lefties, Brett Gardner is batting a mere 200. He is batting horrific against lefties. So when a lefty's in there and say Sonny Gray or Jordan Montgomery, whoever other than Severino, I believe Austin Romine should be in there, and you have Hicks in center. And you're not paying Stanton $265 to be a full-time DH. This man has to play the field, and he's shown. I know early in spring training in the Grapefruit League, he was missing balls all over the place. It got me worried. I believe it. I was ready to move Judge to left and have Stanton in right. But it seems to be working right now. So other than a day game in Yankee Stadium, which is very hard for a left fielder, you know that. A lot of them lose the ball.
It's hard for right fielders as well.
I believe this man has to play the field more in Stanton because he can more than a Sanchez behind the plate. So it's like basically asking me, would you rather have Sanchez behind the plate or Stanton in left field? And right now I'm taking Stanton in left field and DHing Sanchez.
I disagree. It's one of the things that Gary Sanchez does. I brought up the numbers before, but he's got an arm behind the plate.
But Piazza had an arm, but it did nothing.
And Posada, look at where Posada went. How many titles did he win? The guy couldn't block. He couldn't throw better than us. And Jorge Posada, what did he do? He brought excitement to the ballpark. We can go through. We've talked about the core four, and when are we going to see that again? It was Pettit and Posada and Jeter and Bernie and Paul O'Neill. And we can go we can go through it over and over. And Yankee fans know those were the glory days. And Posada, one of the biggest parts of his game that struggled were he couldn't throw and he couldn't block and he was awful defensively. And Joe Torre was hearing it from people like me and you who said he should be DHing and get someone else back there. And they won what? How many titles did they win?
4.
Right, exactly.
And easily. But you see, my thing is, when I talk to you, this is why I love speaking to you, because at least you have a little bit of background. When I hear guys, even professional guys like a Boomer Esiason, right, who should be sticking to football, I hear him in the morning, right, and he's talking about the Yankees. He's a Met fan. And you know what he says? Oh, as a Met fan, I wish I had that problem. Well, you know what? That's why they've been, I'm sorry to say it, and my whole girlfriend's family are Met fans, but they've been losers for so long. It's because they expect to lose. They expect to not have fix what they have and make it better. They expect lower than low. So my whole point is, and I disagreed with Boomer Esiason, and I feel that if you have a special talent like a Gary Sanchez, yes, he has an arm. But what good is the arm if the ball's getting away from him going to the backstop and he cannot call a play competent? He cannot call pitches competently.
No, and one of the things that is a lost art in baseball, I think, especially some of these young catchers who come up and everything's about hard throwing and hard hitting and hitting the ball out. Hitting is about strikeouts, walks, and home runs. What is pitching about? The guy with the nasty slider, the nasty curveball, and the guy who can throw 98. We've talked about Jordan Hicks, the guy who hit 105 for the Cardinals the other day. Mm-hmm. Coming along with that, you're going to lose control. Guys are throwing out their arms. Guys are throwing sliders in the ground with spin rate through the roof. How is someone like Gary Sanchez supposed to catch someone like Aroldis Chapman? He has no idea where the ball's going, or Betances. Yeah, Sonny Gray is really easy to catch. A guy throws 94, 95. He's been hit and miss this season, but he's pretty much there, accuracy.
But I feel a lot better when Romine's behind the plate and Pickles, a.k.a. Sonny Gray, is on the mound. I know I'm going to get a quality start, and I know no balls are going to go behind the backstop.
No, he's definitely a better defensive catcher. You're not going to find an argument here, but the offensive upside of Gary Sanchez definitely outweighs the defensive downside that he brings when he compares to Romine. Obviously, everyone wants to have a Buster Posey.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a dream.
Right. Yeah. That's a dream, and now he's going back and forth with his injuries to first, and he's behind the plate. He's not whatever, but
he's a poor version of Johnny Bench.
Right.
That's
exactly.
what Posey is.
And you know what? And one of the things that we haven't really discussed is an injury point, and we've seen what it's done to the M&M boys up in Minnesota. Morneau and his injuries, and Maurer was a full-time catcher. Now he never catches.
Victor Martinez,
right? We've seen guys that catch and go to first. I want to get the most out of Gary that I can behind the plate, because I could go find another Romine. We know that. We can get a Romine anywhere. We can go find one in AAA just to hit 200, 6-7 homers a year. Be a good defensive guy.
But he's very cerebral, and I love when he's behind the plate. I feel like I have that guide. I have that protection, that not knowing in the 8th inning when Dellin Betances is going to throw a put-away slider, that it's not going to go behind him. I keep saying this and I keep stressing this. I feel Romine needs to be in the lineup more. And if not in the lineup more, what would you say to a defensive replacement?
Well, that's another point that we don't bring up often. One of the things in baseball is tough to do. You can't bring your backup catcher in the middle of a game.
Why not?
Because you have God forbid he got hurt. God forbid you go to extras. I don't know who the third string catcher is at this point.
Torreyes.
Right.
But you don't want to get to that.
Right. Do I want to put Ronnie Torreyes? God forbid. Now, granted, we're not in the playoffs, and if it's a playoff situation, we might be having a different story. You're down 3-1, 3-2 in a series. It's all hands on deck. Chapman's pitching as much as he needs to. That's a different story. You want Romine back there. It's a one-run game, fine. But I'm not risking the chance of Romine coming in the 7th inning. God forbid and the ball gets nicked off his knee. I don't want to put Ronnie Torreyes back in. You can't put Sanchez in there. The only thing you could do with Gary Sanchez at that point, maybe a little double switch. Maybe you put him in the field, take someone out, and now we're doing a lot of.
We're doing a lot of stuff there,
right.
and I feel like making him do too much is even worse.
Right, exactly. So Gary Sanchez, he's a DH, he's a catcher, he was a silver slugger in his past. He was 22nd in All-Star voting, which is a little far behind. But
Rick, you know as well as I do, once we make it to the playoffs, which the Yankees are going to, all right? Let's not, make it anything but. They are going to make it to the playoffs. The thing is, once we get there, pitching always stops great and good hitting. It always does. You run into a Verlander, you run into a Chris Sale, and you run into a Dallas Keuchel or a Kluber when he is on. And a Garrett Cole, of course, who's just been lighting up the AL with 13 strikeouts. What do you do? What do you do? Because now, once we get a lead, I am putting in Austin Romine in the 8th inning because I know, A, it's probably going to be either Robertson or Dellin Betances. B, I do not want, if runners do get on, advancing. And C, Betances and Robertson throw the most breaking ball sliders of all the bullpen pitchers.
They do, and another thing to take into consideration that I think we're kind of dusting over here is, what if it's a one-run game and they do tie it up? Or what if it's a one-run game and they take the lead? And now Gary Sanchez is out of your lineup. So now Austin Romine, who's hitting, 200, he did hit a home run, meaningless home run the other night, great. But what is that, up to 2 or 3 this season? He's not a power hitter. He's not going to provide you offense. In that situation, I need a guy to get on base. If I want to pinch run for Gary Sanchez and then do something else, fine. I need Gary's bat in the lineup. I know he's only hitting 222 this year, and he's already got 12 homers, 33 RBIs. He's going to hit 30 homers again, and I'd be shocked if he doesn't hit 100 RBIs now that Judge is hitting 2. I'm shocked. I see somewhere in the future Gleyber Torres isn't hitting 9th. I see Gleyber hitting maybe that leadoff spot or second spot or something like that. I don't think he's going to be hitting 9th. He shouldn't be hitting 9th. He's too good for that, and we can dive into that later. But I think we're going to have to agree to disagree here on this point because Gary Sanchez is too valuable as a hitter. And the pitching staff as a whole doesn't seem to be struggling as much as the narrative seems to make it out to be.
Let me ask you something, because we could be going back and forth all night. And obviously, we got a lot to get to in this show. The New York Mets come to you, okay? And I know this would be rare, and a lot of you Yankee and Met fans, I feel like it's an ignorance because just last year you had Theo Epstein and the Chicago Cubs make a deal with the Chicago White Sox for Quintana. And that benefited both clubs because at the time, the Chicago Cubs needed to make a race for the playoffs, and that benefited the Chicago Cubs because they got a top prospect in Eloy Jimenez for the future, and he's going to be a stud. So, coming back to my point, is it ignorant? Sandy Alderson calls you tomorrow, you're Brian Cashman, and says, I would like to give you Noah Syndergaard straight up for Gary Sanchez. Are you doing it?
I thought we were going to talk about the Mets later, but since you brought up the Mets once again, I'm doing it. The reason I'm doing it is because...
Well, you just gave me all the numbers of him being a slugger, him doing all these great things. Now, is my argument coming back to you about the defense, or is your love for Thor coming to fruition?
Well, just being in New York, I don't know how you don't love Thor. You have to. The guy's invigorating. He brings excitement to New York, especially to the Mets when it's Thor and DeGrom and everyone else. I don't really know what they're doing, especially on the offensive side of the ball. But one of the things that you have about Thor, you talk about the pitchers, Sale, Kluber, Bauer, Carrasco, Cole. We could go on and on with the starting pitching. Price has been good lately. You need as many arms as you can get. And defense wins you games in football. Defense wins you games in basketball. Pitching and fielding win you games in baseball. It's just that simple. The offense goes away. What was the narrative behind A-Rod the entire time? He doesn't perform in the playoffs. One of the reasons he didn't perform well in the playoffs is, he was facing Cole Hamels. He was facing Roy
Right, that you always ran into a good pitcher. Going back to what I said, good pitching stops good hitting.
What did Joe Girardi do last year? Chad Green was in the game in the first inning in the playoffs.
Right, against Cleveland. You're doing anything possible to keep it where it was.
Exactly, and Chad Green, who had a much better year last year than he is right now, he's struggling. He's going to bounce back, and he's still a key cog in that Yankee bullpen, but... If I can get an ace like Thor, assuming he's healthy, there's the big question there because he hasn't been fully healthy in the past. Maybe that's a Mets curse, who knows? But one of those things is he's got to stay healthy.
And cut the hair.
Sure. DeGrom did it, and he wouldn't be able to do it in New York. You're right. But ask Johnny Damon, he couldn't do it.
I think the ignorance of Yankee and Mets fans just shutting down something like that, I feel is very ignorant. I feel like you should just go for the best deal and whatever benefits your franchise, just not the name of the laundry that you're trading with.
Yeah, and I understand. And the last time the Mets and the Yankees tried to make a trade, or the Yankees try to acquire someone, do you remember?
It wasn't.
It was a lefty specialist.
No.
It was Pedro Feliciano.
Yes.
Pedro Feliciano. I forgot how many appearances it is.
He never had one for the Yankees.
And we'll have to get Dean Annis on the stats somehow.
And in the studio.
Right. He'll figure it out. But Pedro Feliciano had a record amount of appearances. You know how it is. If you come in for one batter, you're still throwing all those warm up pitches. And a guy who's a lefty specialist, he seems like he was up every night for the Mets. And he comes to the Yankees, he passes the physical. The guy never pitched. So if I'm management with the Yankees, it's an injury with a pitcher. I'm looking very closely. Yeah. Pedro Feliciano did not set the Yankees back, but what he did was he probably left a sour taste in upper management, and that's something the Yankees would have to look past, and that's a theoretical. I mean, Noah Syndergaard for Gary Sanchez straight up. Wouldn't New York love that? Yeah. Wouldn't New York?
And that leads me into my next point, because the standings. Okay, we'll start in the AL with the New York Bronx Bombers. The Yankees are 1.5 out of the Boston Red Sox. Okay, the Yankees stand at 31-15. Red Sox stand at 34-15. Okay, so and it was probably because of the past few days. They blew a lead last night, and with the Red Sox winning against the Rays, because they're like the bad news Bears right now. They're just a team to beat up on, like the Reds. So, can you see the Yankees pushing past the Red Sox? Can you see that happening?
I can.
And if you did, what moves would they make? Forget about the Syndergaard one, but something realistic.
Honestly, we'll get into the moves into a little bit. One of the things, just the past few games, they ran into a hot Cole Hamels. We'll talk about him later.
Well, I felt he was showcasing.
He was, and that's one of the things we'll talk about it later. And Cole Hamels definitely comes up towards the end of the show, and we're not going to give anything away. But Cole Hamels comes up later in the show, and they ran into a hot Cole Hamels. And yesterday they were in an offensive battle. You know, we were on the phone with each other. It was Sabathia and Fister. They only went 4 1/3 innings. Both got no decision. So what does that tell you? It was a 12-10 game. Didi hit his 11th. Neil Walker hit a homer.
Great for the over.
Right. Great
for the boys in Vegas, right?
Right. Soon, boys to be in New Jersey, but we got Glaber and Judge. Mazzara hit one. Guzman. You felt like it was the home run derby down there in Globe Life, and they combined for 22 runs, 25 hits, and 79 plate appearances. I I believe there were 5 walks in the game. So it's not like guys were walking all over. They were just hitting the crap out of the ball.
You and I could have went on the bump.
Right, yeah, right. We could have gone, or we could have hit. Either way,
Right.
we could have done better. We would have added to the hitting, or we would have pitched better.
Or made it worse.
Right, so the last few days have been rough for the Yankees. But one of the things I wanted to point out, and I don't know if we've glossed over it, and Yankee fans are like, oh, Boston this, Boston that. First of all, they have Sale. We have Severino. Mm-hmm. They have Price. Why couldn't we match David Price? Mm-hmm. Well, why can't Sonny Gray ever develop to be that guy? I don't expect Montgomery to be, but why can't we have someone who steps up? And maybe that's where your Thor question was referring to. Maybe we need a solid number 2, whether it's DeGrom or Syndergaard or someone that we can get to be that number 2. In terms of the standings, I don't necessarily think we need one. One of the 2 teams will get a wild card spot. That's pretty much guaranteed. We talked about that on last week's show, But do you really want a wild card spot? I don't want to just make it and play and flip a coin and play one game, maybe on the road in Anaheim or in Seattle, and then or them coming here. Why take that chance? So let me bounce that question that you asked me that I didn't correctly answer, I guess. So let me bounce it back to you. They have the same amount of losses, so let's not gloss that over.
We won't stress on that.
Right, they're 3 up on Seattle in the first wild card, so the Yankees aren't struggling. They just a little bit. They're only 5-5 in their last 10, and which is 500 ball. They were red hot. They had to slow down. At some point. Let me ask you this: the Yankees sit here, game and a half out of first. Only 3 games in the win column, so games that they could make up that Boston won't even play because we talked about how many rainouts the Yankees had last week. What would you do? Who's that guy that Houston added Garrett Cole. Uh-huh. The Yankees didn't really add a stud. They went into the season with who they had, and for the most part, it's been working out. We talked about the Team RA with Gary Sanchez and Romine, but who are you looking to get? Are you looking to give away the farm? Because Justice Sheffield is a guy that would be a trade piece if you want to get someone like a Quintana at the market. If you're looking to get, or someone young, like...
Well, if I'm going to give up that kind of talent, right? Okay, so we're going to get to your question. If I'm going to give up that kind of talent, it's got to be of the Thor talent, okay? It's got to be of Chris Archer. It's got to be of those controllable assets and someone I could always turn around and resupply my system. Now, to your point, I love Justice Sheffield. He's also having a better season than Chance Adams, who was a long Yankee
Don't
prospect.
Get me started on Chance Adams.
And they just never took a chance on, no pun intended, bringing him up. But he just he's on the rail riders, and he can't even get outs because he's getting blown up. So you look at your options, right? And I compare the Yankees to the 2015 Cubs, okay? That team was on the brink, all right? And what did they add? They added John Lester. Okay? And yeah, they had Arrieta, who you could probably compare to the Severino of now. So they had somebody in the waiting. But to my point, you need to add that big arm, that big stud arm. And I believe he lies in Tropicana. I believe you could easily ship a Miggy Andujar because you have Drury coming back. You could always put him at third or, play him and Walker on and off. And package, I hate to say it, I love this kid, but Clint Frazier with Miguel Andujar, and you throw in Chance Adams, give me Chris Archer. I have 3 years of control at $7 million. The last year is a buyout year. You have them in control, 7 per year. I love it. I think it's a move they have to make. You could put them right behind Sevy. And hey, who knows? Maybe down the road you probably take on Cole Hamels too, because you could always ship out a Tyler Austin because you got Birdie coming back.
Well, that was my next question. I'm giving you Archer, and I'm giving you Hamels. A, who are you taking? And B, realistically, as we sit here and think this through long term, are Yankee fans, our management, are we willing to give up?
We're willing to part.
Right, because if you... Clint Frazier, young and
I love him.
Young and up and coming. Ellsbury will be off the books before you know it. Gardner will be off the books before you know it. So you look around and you got Judge and you got Stanton, and you got Hicks, but he is a guy who's a role player, so you don't know if you're going to keep him around for a while, and he's been injury prone. Am I willing to part ways with Andujar? Am I willing to part ways with Justice Sheffield or Chance Adams? Am I willing to part ways with some of these guys? I know Bird's coming back, and he hasn't played a full season since.
I would really love to pawn off Bird, but he's not going to have any subsequential value right now because he's coming off an injury, and rightfully so, because we're talking about a business here. But I love these kids. You know that. But to get better, you have to give to get. And I feel like hitting to build a franchise is the easiest and the best way, like the Chicago Cubs did. Why? Because if you look across town at Queens, okay, by LaGuardia Airport, where it's making noise constantly, you have the New York Mets. And what did the Mets think? They had 5 studs, all right? Well, now they're rolling with 1 stud because you got one coming on and off injuries. You just sold one for absolutely pennies on the dollar for Devin Mesoraco in the Queen Cities. And Steven Matz, you don't know if he's ever going to be Steven Matz of 2015 or Steven Matz of now. The inconsistency is unbelievable. So I believe it is too fragile to build your franchise on pitching. Hitting, you could always supply, and you could always get the assets. You have the capital. We are the New York Yankees. Go out, get yourself a pitcher, case closed. And you have Drury coming back who could play third. It's an embarrassment of riches.
I understand, and as I talked about, you want to stockpile pitching. I want pitching. I would give up my hitting assets because the hitting gets me to the playoffs. The pitching wins me the playoffs.
Wins you the championship, absolutely.
The defense win pitching and defense and
always,
and base running. We've seen it before. I can't think off the top of my head.
Kansas City Royals.
The Royals. But I was gonna. Who was it on the Yankees? So who was it in the World Series? Stole second base and third base was vacated. Who was that?
Against the Yankees or
no? It was against the Phillies.
Oh, Johnny Damon.
Johnny Damon.
Number 18.
Damon with the shift.
Batting second.
Right. Don't even get me started on the shift now. But Johnny Damon.
But that's when it started coming out, the shift. And that's where it went against them.
Right. Johnny Damon steals second base.
Yes. And
Phillies
nobody was at third.
Paying attention and goes right to third
Cody
base.
Ash was at third.
Cody Ash. Yeah, I don't even know if he's in the league anymore.
He played like Ashes. But Cody Ash wasn't at third because for you folks out there, a lefty batter was up. I can't think of him right now. It was probably Teixeira because he's a switch hitter.
Was it Teixeira or Hideki?
No, it was Teixeira at the time because in the lineup it was Derek Jeter, Johnny Damon, Teixeira, then Alex Rodriguez. With the lefty up, Teixeira was a known pull hitter. So that took away like 1,000 hits from Mark Teixeira. He should have been better. The guy was a stud, Stud first baseman. So, folks, people, and they played Poppy like this as well when he was playing. They would play everyone to the right. So what that means is your first baseman stays where he is. Your second baseman is like in short right field. Your third baseman sometimes is in the outfield. And your shortstop is not even seen because everyone is pulled over to the right. So what Ricky was alluding to before, what he was mentioning, is because nobody is at third. If you're paying attention enough, which the Phillies messed up, you shouldn't shift at all in that position because now, A, you take away the double play if it's a ground ball. And B, like what happened in the game in 2009, there was nobody at third. So once he steals second, he's going to take third, and you're just killing yourself on that.
Yeah, no, and
that's where overthinking happens.
Yeah, and that was a little distant. I guess we're almost approaching a decade.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
We need another championship, my friend.
Right. The Yankees need another championship, and
call us greedy, but greed is good.
Right, right. What did Joe Girardi do? Joe Girardi always try to go one number up on the back of his jersey, trying to inspire the team, and which I thought was very cool, by the way. It was a little nugget of information that outside of New York he probably didn't even think about. But, and like I said before, we'll talk about Cole Hamels and potential moves, and I'm a big fan of Cole Hamels. He was on that Phillies team in 2009.
Yes.
He was on that team, and that team was loaded with pitching. Oh, just like the Yankees. Cliff Lee and Stud. Halladay and
Halladay they got the next year. They got 2010.
Halladay was the next year, but they already had an embarrassment of riches, and they had Victorino and Howard and Utley and Rollins, and the team was loaded.
Pat Bell.
Right, Pat Bell. Right. Yeah. I mean, the team was loaded, and and Chooch Ruiz back there, and and the Yankees had similar teams to that. And honestly, you got to be balanced. And I get your point. I'm just I got to be very careful if I'm Yankee management what moves I'm making. And I think they could still win the division with the assets they have in place. I want to see where Bird is. I want to see.
Give him a week.
Right. I want to see if Andujar continues. I want to see if Torres stays. I want to see these things. Kids. One of the things that people always say, there's an embarrassment of riches. We've seen it. Ellsbury's hurt. Someone else can go on the DL. Someone else struggles. We've seen it. These things work themselves out. There's no such thing as too many assets.
Exactly.
And it's a good problem to have, and that's why we're doing our thing. We'll let Aaron Boone take care of that. And I trust him.
I don't trust him. I wouldn't let him manage my Little League team. I'm sorry, because Cashman's running that team, bro.
I trust
Cashman's running that team.
I didn't think Joe Torre was so great either.
He wasn't. He wasn't. He was just on a great team. He burned out Flash Gordon. He burned out Scott Proctor, Tanyer Sturts.
Those guys
Paul
were
Quantrill.
terrible.
They were terrible. Ricky, they would get the outs. What is this game about? Getting outs. To Mo. Got to go to Mo's.
Do you want to have that bullpen or the bullpen we have right now?
Oh, of course now. But I'm just saying. But back then, that was like now, figuratively speaking, those players were looked on as good relievers, guys that would get outs. And by July, August, he was burning all of them out. You know that.
Enough. Can we talk about the Mets? Because
yeah, let's talk about the Mets.
We have a new story, and we talked about talking points, and one of the things he brought up to me was Jose Bautista and
Joey Bats.
Joey Bats back from the. I don't even know if he was the dead. He was, he's most known for that stupid bat flip that he had against the Rangers in the playoffs.
Stupid? You think that's stupid? Real quick, do you think that's stupid? I think that's passion. The game needs passion. We need younger folks watching the game.
We do. I don't need to see him stare down the pitcher and the opposing team and throw the bat at him. Just do your bat flip and go.
So you think Odor was right knocking him out?
Rougned Odor might be my new favorite second baseman.
There was a time in 2016, I'll never forget it, and Altuve wasn't Altuve yet. So Ricky and I are texting each other, and he goes, "I think Rougned Odor is the best second baseman in baseball." And I'm like, Ricky, how could you say that? I mean, you got Altuve, he's coming on the scene, but he wasn't Altuve yet.
Right, he wasn't Altuve, so right. I think there was an asterisk there. We're not comparing them right now, but Rougned Odor.
He's a nice player. He's a
good player, and I don't think he's someone who's going to win you anything anytime soon. But is he a quality starting second baseman in the league? Ask the Seattle Mariners. Would they take him right now at second base? After the D Gordon injury, they definitely take him. So, and we talked about the Mariners last week, and Gordon ended up getting play hurt second base, and then he got hurt. So the Mariners are even worse. They're playing Heredia and Segura. They don't even tail
Who's cursed more, them or the Mets?
Well, I'm happy you brought us back to the Mets because one of the things that Jose Bautista did for baseball, besides the bat flip, he was exciting. Yeah. Him and Donaldson and Encarnacion, they brought excitement to the team.
Eddie won a cracker.
Right. And I think that's what the Mets were trying to do. Mm-hmm. When we break the Mets down, I just want to go through their season a little bit before we get to Joey Bats. I have a disappointments category, and you can add to this. Harvey, who I think will do great things in Cincinnati. He was the Dark Knight for a reason. He touched 96 the other night.
No, and absolutely. And I actually picked him up in our league of record. Got a victory out of that. But I think the Dark Knight will rise again. Will he rise again this year? No. But you see what I mean? This is the black cloud that surrounds Queens. You know why? Because the Reds are going to turn him around, right? Listen, Met fans, because this is going to happen. Ricky knows. They're going to turn him around, right? Then the Reds are going to sell him at the trade deadline, get the prime prospect that the Mets should have got, and then he'll be great with the Dodgers or something like that. Keep that on file. But go on, Rick.
Right, so we've got Harvey. We've got Zach Wheeler. Can't figure him out.
Should have been traded 2 years ago for Jonathan Lucroy. I'm just still saying it. Go on.
Can't figure him out. Okay, fine. So we got Steven Matz, who gets hurt going to the bathroom. And then we got Vargas, who you're paying. So meanwhile, but just a short story on Vargas, they could have a guy in Texas, Bartolo Colon, for pennies on the dollar compared to Vargas. So we've talked about that, and we're not going to get into it. But
Big Sexy, come on!
I've had Met fans tell me we could have Big Sexy. He brings more excitement than Vargas. Some people didn't even know. Was it Jorge Vargas? Was it Jason Vargas? Was it Jonathan Vargas? They didn't even know who this guy was. long story short, at best he's a 4 or 5 starter. He's not anyone Met fans are going to.
And the Mets shop at Walmart, so it's perfect for them. Right. $1.5 million they owe him, the Texas Rangers. That's nothing. That's nothing. I mean, that's a lot to us, but that's a nothing to them.
Right. Right. And so there's a disappointment. We haven't even touched on the hitters. So one of the things that as we go to the offensive side of the ball, so the Mets are already doing things wrongly. Mm-hmm. Thank goodness Syndergaard and DeGrom are still performing.
God bless those men.
In light of the Mets. Imagine they were on a real team with real coaches, real management. Oh my. New York Yankees. Right. We could say the Yankees or, God forbid, the Red Sox. But sure. Yeah. One of the things that Bautista, getting back to that topic, one of the things I think he's going to do, a few different aspects real quick. He's going to take time away from Nimmo, Conforto, and Bruce. And Bruce actually had a really disgusting look on his face in the papers, and not a big deal, but he wasn't happy that he was getting replaced by a guy who was already shipped out of Atlanta after 12 games. Great. So one of the issues in Toronto was he was a tough personality guy in the locker room, and baseball, it's not dominated by one guy. It's a clubhouse thing. You look, that's your brother to your right, it's your brother to your left.
Of course.
I saw it firsthand in Syracuse. One of the things that some of the guys didn't love about some of the other guys was some guys are career AAA guys. Some guys are career minor leaguers. Some guys have potential to make it to the next level. But while you're in AAA, if you are a prime prospect, your job is to help the team win at AAA. Show you have those qualities that you can bring to the next level, that you're not just going to hit. You're not going to hit 400. You're not Ted Williams. If you were Ted Williams, you would have been there already. So Bautista wasn't a great locker room guy in Toronto. Mm-hmm. And those were all, according to all the reports with TSN, that was Toronto Sports Network who said things like that. You already have Asdrubal Cabrera fizzing out, Reyes fizzing out, Vargas, who we talked about earlier, and Adrian Gonzalez, another 36-year-old. So now I bring in...
They would have been great on a 2014 team, though.
Right. Is this fantasy baseball of 2012? Who am I looking for?
They're the San Francisco Giants of the East.
I mean, the Mets are interesting to me because, and we'll get your take on it. And I know I'm talking a little bit past the sale here.
Of course, go on.
But I'm looking at the Mets, and I have DeGrom, Matz, Wheeler, and Syndergaard. So on the pitching front, I feel like I'm getting ready for the future, assuming they're all healthy and they pan out. And maybe you've given up on some of those guys. I haven't. I saw Harvey last night. You know the Mets are cursed. You knew he was going to do well as soon as
of course, absolutely.
And in their defense, Devin Mesoraco did hit a big home run the other night, sure. But
he's going to break something soon. But yeah, go on.
Right. But on the offensive side of the ball, other than Amed Rosario and maybe they bring up their young, talented first baseman down there, Peter Alonso. Maybe they do it sometime soon. Probably not. Dom Smith, to me, is already off.
You don't like Dom Smith?
Dom Smith is awful.
Because you know what I project him as? I project him as a poor version of Prince Fielder. I think what he could be. Because I believe he did slim down some. I want him to hit Puma. I want him to do something productive. If you are a prime prospect, I saw him Binghamton. Look great. I'm sitting there like Amed Rosario, stud. Going to be the future of the Mets. Rosario and Smith. And while I've been down on Rosario, I see some upside. Personally, I think he's a better second baseman for the future, and that's another story for another time. He's got a cannon of an arm, but look at Glaber. He's excelling at second, and they should have Didi and Glaber for the future. Oh, yeah.
Possibly Andujar third. Maybe you get another veteran. Whatever the case may be.
Machado.
Right, Manny. Right. Moneybags Puma's bringing in Machado, Hamels.
I'm a hustler, baby. I'm a hustler, baby.
But if I'm looking at the Mets on the offensive side of the ball, they're old. So they're young on one side, they're old on the other. And maybe this is just a clash of management, but am I trying to get veterans to compete? In my opinion, if I believe in the young guys, which I personally do, if management believes in them, I don't know if they do or not, they just let Harvey go, but if they do believe in them, try to get whatever expiring contracts on the offensive side out and bring in prospects. Bring guys in. Let Alonso come hit. What are you doing with Adrian Gonzalez? And that's one of the things Mets fans hate about Bautista. You're not letting guys like Conforto and Nimmo get the most amount of time that they can get. So I ask you this.
You're not letting them mature.
Right. I ask you this. I don't want Conforto to get 400 at-bats. I want Conforto to get 600 at-bats.
Yes.
God forbid he gets hurt. He's going to have less than that. But I want these guys to play 140 games. I don't want Michael Conforto playing 100 games. I don't want Nimmo playing 80-something games because I'm bringing in an aging veteran who's not going to help you win. So if you're Mets management, I just pointed all those things out to you. A, where do you fall on that spectrum? Are the Mets maybe not as old as I think they are? Or are you sticking with the prospects? What are you doing? What are you thinking? What are you looking to do at this point? Because the Mets are struggling. They have the Braves, Phillies, and Nationals ahead of them. They're not winning anytime soon. So what are you doing?
Okay, so a while ago, I heard from my father, and he said to me what Yogi Berra used to say was, "It's getting late early." Okay, we're in the middle. Late May actually, getting into June next week. Okay. Obviously, this reminds me of plenty, not to, mess you up here, but it reminds me of some Jet teams, all right?
Don't do that to me. Don't do the Jets right now. We're already talking about the Mets. I'm already depressed as it is. Now you bring in the Jets.
But what I'm trying to allude to is that the feeling of always staying in neutral, okay? You either have to blow it up or add to. Now, I believe even if the Mets were to add to, okay? Let's start first with the positive. They add to, okay? Are you beating the Cubs? Are you beating the Nationals in a
division?
Right.
You're not beating the Phillies, Braves, or Nationals.
Right. So the way I look at it, okay, I play it out for another 2 weeks. I'm shopping around DeGrom. I'm shopping around Syndergaard. Now, yes, do I want to build around those players? Yes, but I don't have anything to give other than them.
So you're looking at your young guys and saying...
I wouldn't admit that to who's ever down in the office. I want everyone to play and win. They just had a thing with...
upper management perspective,
right.
You are shopping...
I'm thinking ahead.
Because Familia is 2019 free agent.
Yeah, he's going.
Okay, fine. Right, and you can get something for Familia. He's been...
And you could add in Ramos, too.
Well, I didn't even look at A.J. Ramos. Right. The guy's got a 5.4. The only reason he's relevant is because he's living with Stanton. That's the only reason.
Right, I heard that too.
Right. And they didn't have furniture, right? And that's why Stan couldn't hit. Right, live in a hotel. You're making 20-something million a year. Live in a hotel. Don't even get me started on that.
No, you're absolutely right.
I'm reading the papers, and Stan can't hit because he's got no furniture.
Right,
but 2020, I got Todd Frazier, who I still think can be a productive player. I'm just going to read the list off, and I'll let...
Sure, you're allowed.
Lagares, Darno, and Wheeler, all 2020. 2021, and this is the group that I think can be productive. Cespedes,
okay,
he's got some team control. He's a lot of money. He's got some team control.
He's got, what, 2 years at 27 each?
Yeah, I wanted to say that's about it. Jay Bruce, who I still think can be productive. I don't know why he's crying and making faces because he's getting paid and they're going to lose.
2 at 13 each, something like that.
Yeah, something about that. And I would take him at 13 each. A lot of teams can take him right now.
The discount was so good that he could actually be
right. And if you get him right now, you're not paying him the full 13. Obviously, that's going to be prorated. And you got DeGrom 2021. And Vargas and Syndergaard's even further down the road. But that's your class, 2021. So you said 2 weeks. Right. Why are you giving it 2 weeks? Or why aren't you waiting to the deadline or going now? Because I look at this division, and we'll talk about Miami maybe in a little bit. They don't even deserve any time ever because the only thing about them that's relevant is Derek Jeter.
And the guy who wears the Jeter jersey and the Marlins.
Right, Marlins, man.
The Marlins,
right,
man.
Jeter and Marlins, man. The only one bringing headlines. But the Mets are in a place right now where they need to look at themselves and say, where are we going? So why are you giving them 2 weeks?
Okay.
So
let's first start off.
Please enlighten me because I can't figure it out.
The New York Metropolitans, for Pete's sake, they're in purgatory right now. They're in between, all right? We don't know if we're going to heaven. We don't know if we're going to hell. So... But I cannot share that with my fan base yet. Okay, I call it lying, call it being fake, but it's a business. But it's something else if I were to say it. If my name is Sandy Alderson and I put a statement out there, we as the New York Mets are not going to be trying anymore. We're going to be selling.